guests, our very, very important guests. Thank you so much for always coming whenever we call. And it is the Maiden Postgraduate School Discourse. It's the public lecture of Chrisland University, and this event was organized by the local organizing committee here in Chrisland University. We call them the Ceremonies and Honors Committee. They put this lecture together. Well done for a very good job. And to the management of Chrisland University, we say thank you for providing this opportunity for us to have this public lecture. And it is the very first in the postgraduate school. It's the Maiden Postgraduate School Discourse. And the topic for this lecture is Consolidating Postgraduate Education in Nigerian Universities, and it will be delivered by the 12th Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan, the premier university, and he is Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka. We will be taking the lecture when the time comes, and at this moment, I'd like to welcome into our midst all our guests, all friends of the universities that are connected virtually, members of the Board of Trustees of Chrisland University, council members, sister universities that are logged on virtually across our online platforms. We are live on Zoom, and we are live on YouTube at Chrisland University Media. Do well to share the link across your platforms. For our parents that are logged on virtually, thank you very much for always identifying with the Chrisland University brand. We appreciate you, and we say thank you for joining. The link will be shared across our parents' platforms so you can connect and participate in this public discourse. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our Chancellor and Chairman Board of Trustees, Chief Dr. Mrs. Winifred Awoshika, OON, the Mojila of Egbaland. She's connected virtually. We acknowledge you, Ma. Thank you for always supporting us. Thank you for always connected and connecting to all of our events whenever we have them. To other members of the Board of Trustees, we say thank you very much for joining virtually. We see you and we acknowledge your presence. For all of our council members here and virtually, we say thank you for joining. At exactly 11 a.m., the procession will be coming into the auditorium and the event will kick off. I'd like to say a very big congratulations to the postgraduate school for putting this together. It's the Maiden Postgraduate School Discourse. The Dean of the Postgraduate School, we say well done to you and your team. And we say a very big congratulations to you for all of the students of the Postgraduate School here present. Thank you for joining. I'd also like to inform us that the lecture booklet is available. You can just signify to any of the ushers to get your copy. It's very affordable as well. I'd like to inform our students to please hurry up with the registration, take your seats. The academic procession We'll be coming into the auditorium now. The media team should please get ready. We need the instrumentals to be on standby as we welcome into the auditorium the academic procession in few minutes. My name is Dolapo Akintoye, and I welcome you once again to the public lecture, the Maiden Postgraduate School Discourse, and today we will be talking about consolidating postgraduate education in Nigeria. And our lecturer for today, our guest lecturer, is Professor Abel Ijowu Olayinka. He is the 12th Vice Chancellor of Chrisland of University of Ibadan, and he is the first to deliver the Maiden Postgraduate School Discourse. Thank you very much. The academic procession now, shall we rise as we welcome the academic procession? All students, please have your seats. The academic procession for the Maiden Postgraduate School Discourse. The academic procession is being led by the Dean of the Postgraduate School, Professor Julius Ademokoya, and is being followed by the acting University Librarian, Dr. Goodluck Ifije. And next we have the University Bossa, Ms. Olukemi Ojo, and the University Registrar is following, Mr. Samuel Omotosho. And next to him is the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Chrisland University, Professor Ebenezer Olatunde Faromi, and of course our guest lecturer for today, the 12th Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan, Professor Abel Ijowu Olayinka. And next we can see the Vice Chancellor of Chrisland University, Professor Oyedunmi Shola Arulogun. Ladies and gentlemen, the academic procession for the Maiden Postgraduate School Discourse. Very much. At this point, while we remain standing, I'd like to invite the university chaplain, Reverend Canon Juwon Onosoya, to take the opening prayer.
The Lord be with you all. Please let us bow our heads as we pray together. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of life. We most sincerely thank you for the privilege of gathering together for this amazing public lecture. We acknowledge that all wisdom, all the knowledge and understanding come from you, Lord God Almighty. And as we begin this event today, we invite your presence into this gathering. We ask, oh God, that you bless our guest lecturer. We pray that you bless him with clarity of thought and the grace of expression. Grant all listeners, all participants here today an attentive mind, open heart, and a discerning spirit. All the ideas, thoughts that will be shared today, we ask that they will inspire learning, innovation, and be a commitment to serving humanity. let this event enrich our university community, and ultimately let it bring glory to your name. Thank you for the Board of Trustees of Chrisland University. Thank you for the Governing Council. Thank you for management. Thank you for staff and students. Continue to bless us and make this day a glorious one. And at the end, we will return all the glory, the honor, and adoration to your most precious name. This we ask in the name of God the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much, the University Chaplain, Reverend Canon Juwon Onosaya. I'll please request that we still remain standing as we take the anthems. We'll be taking the Nigerian national anthem first, the first stanza of the Nigerian national anthem, and this will be followed by the Chrisland University anthem. The media team.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribes and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland.
The Chrisland University anthem.
We will shine the light for all to see. Chrisland University for intellectual radiance, moral standard and leadership. We uphold our values and principles to raise great minds and entrepreneurs. Chrisland University will always shine the light. A shining star that God has built, Chrisland University, deploying resources to educate great hearts of nobility. Through innovation and research for meeting our society's needs, Chrisland University, we always shine the light.
Thank you very much. You may please have your seats. Once again, I welcome you all to the public lecture. It is the Maiden Postgraduate School Discourse, and it's holding today, the second day of July in the year 2026. I welcome you, all our guests, dignitaries, to Chrisland University here in the beautiful city of Abeokuta. At this moment, I'd like to give the welcome address, the chairman of the local organizing committee, our own ceremonies and honors committee, Professor E.O. Mako. Let's put our hands together for the chairman.
We return unto God Almighty this opportunity we are granted to conceive, prepare, implement this very important edition of our public lecture. The second series in our public lecture at Chrisland University. The first of its kind was delivered on the 17th July 2015. This particular lecture is timely and more important now than any other time because we have our first set of postgraduate students just been admitted in this session 25-26 academic session. It is therefore timely to have a discourse of this nature. Beyond that, it is also very important to note that we have gotten a big fish in our midst today, someone who has been the Dean of Postgraduate School, University of Ibadan, who was also the immediate past Vice Chancellor of the university. Professor Abel Idowu was the Dean of the Postgraduate School when I was doing my master's program at the University of Ibadan. And that time, I was just a graduate assistant, and today I'm a professor. So I don't know whether we answer to that name, professor, when he's seated here today. Coincidentally, he was the designated Vice Chancellor, University of Ibadan, when I was doing my PhD convocation in November 2015. So I have gotten a part of a relationship with him as a student. Prof is a seasoned administrator, a well-known administrator in the area of postgraduate studies. University of Ibadan, where he did a lot of work, is the pioneering postgraduate university in Nigeria. According to the record, the university has produced over 45,000 postgraduate students. I think we clap for University of Ibadan, the premier university, for producing. So it is timely for us to have this man who has been an administrator in postgraduate studies, who has been an administrator in the university as a whole, to be in our midst today. So on behalf of the Chancellor of the university, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, the Governing Council and the management of this great university, the postgraduate school of our own dear university, and the members of the organizing committee of awards and ceremony, I welcome our final year students who are potential postgraduate students in the nearest time to come. I welcome our postgraduate students, our first set of postgraduate students of Chrisland University. I equally welcome all our audience watching us virtually across the globe. I want us to relax and enjoy the meal as it's being served from the tour of knowledge itself. Thank you. God bless all of us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Chairman of the Local Organizing Committee, our own Ceremonies and Honors Committee. At this moment, I'd like to acknowledge our very special guests here today, guests that are joined virtually. I'd like by starting with the Chancellor and Chairman Board of Trustees of Chrisland University, Chrisland Group of Schools, Professor, sorry, I beg your pardon, Chief Dr. Mrs. Winifred Awoshika, OON. Can we put our hands together? She's joined via Zoom. We are not putting our hands together properly for the Chancellor of Chrisland University. Also joined via Zoom are members of council. We have Professor Chinedum Peace Babalola, the immediate past Vice Chancellor of Chrisland University. She's also joined. Also a member of council, we have Professor Oluyemi Sibangboshe, SAN. Let's put our hands together for all our council members that have taken time to join us today. We also have Professor Ojo joined virtually. We have Professor Ajiboye. We have Ifije Ayodele, Tunji Alu, Benga, Eniola, and all of our guests that are joined virtually. We acknowledge your presence. Thank you for joining us via Zoom or on our YouTube channel. We'll acknowledge more of our guests as the list comes. At this point, I'd like to invite the Vice Chancellor of Chrisland University for the opening remarks, Professor Oyeduni Shola Arulogun. Let's put our hands together for the Vice Chancellor of Chrisland University for our opening remarks.
The Alake of Egbaland, Kábíyèsí o. The Olówu of Owu, Kábíyèsí o. Our distinguished Chancellor, our Mama, High Chief Dr. Winifred Awoshika, OON, who is with us virtually, the Pro-Chancellor, distinguished Professor Ayodeji Olukoju, other members of council who are joining us virtually, all our distinguished guests who are here, representing the Nigerian Police, the Federal Road Safety, NDLEA, thank you very much for coming. The principal officers of the university, the deans, the Dean Postgraduate School, the directors, heads of departments, members of Senate, faculty, researchers, postgraduate students, our distinguished guest lecturer, a teacher of teachers. At least he gave me the good news that my assessor's reports were complete for my promotion to professorship. When he was DVC, Academic University of Ibadan. Gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the maiden postgraduate school discourse of Chrisland University, Abeokuta. Today marks more than the inauguration of a lecture series. It marks the beginning of a tradition of intellectual engagement that will enrich scholarship, stimulate innovation, and strengthen postgraduate education within our university. Every great institution is defined not only by the knowledge it imparts, but also by the quality of conversation it inspires. Today, we begin such conversation. The choice of the theme, Consolidating Postgraduate Education in Nigerian Universities, is both timely and strategic. Across the world, postgraduate education remains the engine room of knowledge creation, research excellence, technological innovation, and national development. It is at this level that ideas are refined into discoveries, research becomes solutions, and scholars emerge as thought leaders capable of addressing society's most complex challenges. For Nigerian universities, the imperative to consolidate postgraduate education has never been greater. We live in an era where universities are no longer judged solely by the number of graduates they produce, but by the quality, relevance, and impact of their research. The strength of any university's postgraduate program is therefore a reflection of its academic maturity and its contribution to national and global development. At Chrisland University, we are committed to building a postgraduate school that is distinguished by academic excellence, rigorous research, innovation, interdisciplinary collaboration, ethical scholarship, and global relevance. We envision a postgraduate ecosystem where curiosity is encouraged, creativity is nurtured, and research outcomes contribute meaningfully to industry, public policy, healthcare, education, entrepreneurship, and sustainable development. This discourse is an important step towards realizing this vision. It provides a platform for critical reflection on the future of postgraduate education, the challenges confronting our universities, and the opportunities before us in an increasingly knowledge-driven world. It is also an opportunity to challenge ourselves to rethink traditional models of postgraduate training and to embrace approaches that produce graduates who are not only academically accomplished, but also innovative, entrepreneurial, globally competitive, and solution-oriented. To our postgraduate students, let me remind you that pursuing an advanced degree is more than obtaining another qualification. It is a commitment to disciplined inquiry, intellectual curiosity, resilience, originality, and lifelong learning. The future belongs to researchers who can ask bold questions, generate credible evidence, and transform knowledge into solutions that improve lives. I sincerely commend the postgraduate school for initiating this discourse. I encourage that it becomes a regular intellectual tradition, bringing together distinguished scholars, industry leaders, policymakers, and researchers to exchange ideas and shape the future of postgraduate education in Nigeria and beyond. I also extend a heartfelt appreciation to our distinguished guest speaker, sir. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation to share valuable insights with us. We are honored by your presence, and we look forward to a thought-provoking lecture that will inspire meaningful dialogue and practical action. As we commence this maiden discourse, let's participate with open mind, engage with intellectual curiosity, and renew our collective commitment to advancing postgraduate education as a catalyst for excellence, innovation, and national transformation. On this note, it is my singular honor and privilege to declare the maiden postgraduate school discourse of Chrisland University, Abeokuta officially open. On behalf of our Chancellor, the Board of Trustees, the Governing Council, Senate Management, staff and students of Chrisland University, Abeokuta, I warmly welcome you all and wish all of us a rewarding and intellectually stimulating discourse. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chancellor, for that welcome address. I'd like to formally welcome into our midst our traditional fathers, the Olowu of Owu Kingdom, Oba Professor Saka Adelola Matemilola. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. Kabiesi. And also we have in our midst the representative of the paramount ruler, the Alake of Egba land, Oba Adedotu Aremu Gbadebo. Thank you very much for joining us here, sir. Kade Pelori Kibata Pelese. We acknowledge your presence here and we say thank you. You came really early and we do not take that for granted. Thank you for joining us, sir. I'd also like to remind us that we still have copies up for sale for the lecture. You can signify and one of the ushers will bring you a copy. It's very affordable. Please make sure you get a copy before you leave here today. Now we've come to the moment where we've been waiting for. I'd like to invite the Dean of the Postgraduate School, Professor Julius Ademokoya, to take the citation of today's guest lecturer. Let's put our hands together for the Dean of the Postgraduate School, Professor Julius Ademokoya.
citation of Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka. Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka was born on 16 February 1958 in Odo-Ijesha, Osun State. He began his education at St. Bartholomew Anglican Primary School, Odo-Ijesha, where his leadership qualities emerged early as he became senior prefect at the age of 10. He was admitted to the renowned Ilesha Grammar School, the School of Omoluwapis, in 1970. He gained admission to the University of Ibadan in 1977 and graduated with Bachelor of Science, Geology, second class honor, upper division. During his National Youth Service, he served with Hydrogeology and Hydrology Division of the Federal Department of Water Resources, Port Harcourt. This gave him the opportunity to participate in the federal government's National Borehole Program. He subsequently worked with Deptor Consultants, where he conducted geophysical investigation for borehole development and rehabilitation across northern Nigeria. In 1983, he proceeded to the Imperial College of Science, Technology and Medicine, London, where he obtained the University of London MSc in Geophysics and Diploma of Membership of Imperial College in 1984. After a brief appointment with Bywater Selabia Nigeria Limited, he received prestigious Overseas Research Students Award to pursue a PhD in geophysics at the University of Birmingham, United Kingdom, which he completed in 1987. Professor Olayinka joined the Department of Geology, University of Ibadan, in April 1988 as Lecturer 2, through dedication to teaching, research, and service. He rose steadily through the academic ranks and became the Professor of Applied Geophysics in 1999. He also undertook postdoctoral research at the Technical University of Braunschweig as a DAD visiting scholar, and also later at the Technical University Benin as an Alexander von Humboldt Research Fellow, an accomplished scholar. Professor Olayinka has supervised 19 PhD graduates and authored 126 scholarly publications, including journals, articles, books, chapters, conference proceedings, and policy briefs. His publications have attracted over 2,800 citations with a Google Scholar H index of 228 as of May 2026. The Araba at Obadan side, Chief Oloriomo of all sons and daughters of Ijesha in University of Ibadan, Ogidiomo of Ijesha land, Idowu Ogbo Esuleyin Ibeji, Ìkẹta ọmọ ní ṣe, Ìdòwú ló ní ìbejì, díẹ̀ ní Tàlàbá nínú ìbejì. Professor Olayinka's outstanding contribution Professor Olayinka's outstanding contributions to geophysics and higher education have earned him numerous honors, including the Grover E. M. Ray Memorial Distinguished Educator Award of the American Association of Petroleum Geologists, the Nigerian Mining and Geoscience Society, Right Honorable Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe Gold Medal, the NNGS Total Exploration and Production First Prize, the LMGS/S O Nwachukwu AA Holding Medal for pioneering contribution to applied geophysics, and the Umaru Shehu Lifetime Achievement Award for his advocacy for positive reforms in the Nigerian university system. He's a fellow of several distinguished professional bodies, including the Nigerian Academy of Science, the Geological Society of London, the European Federation of Geologists, the Nigerian Mining and Geoscience Society, the Nigerian Association for Petroleum Explorationists, and numerous other national professional associations. Beyond research, Olayinka has rendered exceptional professional and academic services. He served as visiting professor, external examiner, and external assessor in many universities, and played leading role in curriculum development and accreditation of geoscience program nationwide. He convened the first international conference on research and innovation management in West Africa in 2006 and became the foundation president of West Africa Research and Innovation Management Association. He also chaired the board of the African Research University Alliance and served on the Council of Association of Commonwealth Universities, London. Within the Nigerian Academy of Science, he served as chairman of the Earth and Environmental Sciences section and currently serves as academic secretary, Physical Sciences. Within the University of Ibadan, Professor Olayinka distinguished himself in several leadership positions. As the head of the Department of Geology, he mobilized substantial support from alumni and industry partners to improve the teaching and research facilities. As Dean of the Postgraduate School, he introduced scholarships, teaching, and research assistantships, conference grants, interdisciplinary research initiatives, research methodology workshops, grant writing training, and enhanced postgraduate publishing. As Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics, he contributed significantly to strengthening academic governance, research, and staff development. His appointment as the 12th substantive Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan in December 2015 marked a transformative period in the institution's history. Under his leadership, the university established 22 new academic departments and 4 new faculties, including the pioneering Faculty of Multidisciplinary Studies, the first of its kind in West and Central Africa, which later secured the Tetford Center of Excellence. The School of Business was upgraded to faculty status, while the postgraduate school evolved into a postgraduate college. His administration also established the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Innovation, and Strategic Partnership, strengthened research collaboration and grant acquisition, introduced innovative in-house electronic voting system that enhanced transparency in university elections, and expanded infrastructure through public-private partnership, resulting in new hostels, commercial facilities, multipurpose centers. These far-reaching reforms significantly enhanced the university's teaching, research, global visibility, and institutional reputation. During his tenure, the University of Ibadan consolidated its position as the leading university in Nigeria and West Africa, ranked 7th in Africa, and entered 401 500 band of Times Higher Education World University rankings. Following the completion of his tenure as Vice Chancellor, Professor Olayinka returned to full-time teaching and research. He undertook another Alexander Vought Humboldt Research Fellowship in Germany in 2023 and has continued to support emerging geoscience programs in Nigerian universities through accreditation and mentorship. He currently serves as Pro-Chancellor and the Chairman of Council of West Midland Open University, a member of the Governing Council of Adeleke University, and Chairman of the Board of Directors of Multiverse Mining and Exploration Nigeria PLC. Professor Idowu Olayinka's distinguished career as scholar, administrator, researcher, mentor, and advocate for quality higher education has left an enduring imprint in geophysics, university governance, research management, and the Nigerian higher education system. He is happily married to Dr. Olutito Olayinka, a reader in French and Gender Studies in the Department of European Studies, University of Ibadan. Their marriage is blessed and accomplished with children and a grandchild. Mélòó la ó kà lẹ́yìn Adépèlé. Professor Olayinka's full citation is a whole lecture on its own. We are just halfway in the reading of his citations. However, for time's sake, we will tarry here. Here stands Erinlakatabu, Ajanaku Abiru Bam. Ajanaku Tomi Gbo UI Kiji. Ajanaku kúrò ní mo rí nǹkan fìrí, tabarẹ́rin ká nípa rẹ́rin, Ìjẹ̀ṣà òṣèré, ọmọ onílẹ̀ obì, ọmọ ẹlẹ́ni ẹwẹlẹ́, ọmọ wa òbòkun, ọmọ ògèdèǹgbé agbógungbòrò. Ọmọ ẹlẹ́ni àtẹ̀ká, ọmọ ẹlẹ́ni ẹwẹlẹ́. It may interest you to note that Professor Olayinka was born in Odo Ijesha, and I was born at El Saudo in Osun State. He went to Ilesha Grammar School in 1970. 12 years after, I also went to the same school, and I graduated with his junior brother. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka to deliver his talk.
Thank you very much, sir. Permit me at this junction to please invite to the podium, invite to the high table to join our guests, our dignitaries on the high table. The Ogun State Head of Service, Mr. Olanrewaju Iskil Saka. Let's put our hands together for the Head of Service of Ogun State as he comes to the high table. Ladies and gentlemen, at this moment we invite the guest lecturer for the maiden postgraduate discourse, Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka, to deliver the lecture.
I thank the PRO, also the Vice Chancellor, as well as the Dean of the Postgraduate School for this. Please sit down. I welcome His Excellency, the Head of Service of Ogun State. I recognize all the Oriades here, His Imperial Majesty, the Alaki of Ekbaland, and His Imperial Majesty, Alaki Oluwo of Olowu, sorry, our fathers, and everyone at the ITV, the Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Registrar, Bossa, Liberian, Deputy Vice Chancellor, I hope I mentioned Deputy Vice Chancellor, and the distinguished guests, members of the faculty at Chrisland University. I think it gladdens my heart that the Head of Service was able to come here in person in spite of his very busy schedule. Because every now and then we accuse the university people that you stay in an island of your own, and also the traditional rulers. Because while a university is striving to become a global and all that, you want to be the best in Nigeria, best in Africa, but what of your immediate environment? So you have to be relevant to the immediate environment. And of course, this university is in Gbaland. So it's good that the traditional rulers are supporting the university in words and deeds. So we thank you, sirs. Baba, Eshigani. And it's really a pleasure for me to be here. This, I think it's still morning, it's not yet 12. I cannot thank the Vice Chancellor enough for inviting me. As you well know, the Vice Chancellor of Chrisland University is a native of the University of Ibadan, just like myself. And also, I think the chairman of the local organizing committee also said he did some of his degrees in UI, including the 2015 PhD convocation. I mean, the truth is that all of us, we are standing on the shoulder of giants. I just like the Vice Chancellor mentioned in a welcome and opening remarks that there should be interdisciplinary work. I mean, we should not be living in silos. One person cannot do it all. Even though you two should be able to bring something to the table. And so interdisciplinary, I think that is the part of the essence of this maiden postgraduate discourse. Not just for the students, but you are also bringing the town, so town and gown. And I remember at the University of Ibadan, it was the late Professor Kuku, who was a native of Ijebu-Ode, as Dean of Postgraduate School in 1990. He was the one who introduced the postgraduate school discourse. So those of us who came many years after him, I've just been building on what we met on ground, and it's gratifying to note that I mean, when the Vice Chancellor called me on phone to ask me whether I'd be willing to give this discourse, I mean, I jumped at it. I mean, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Parabi, was telling me that he went somewhere last week or a week before to give a lecture. I think that is our vocation. We are always willing and prepared to share your thoughts. Not that everything you say will be 100% correct, but you can also learn. And I'm really very glad that coming here, I think the last time I was here was maybe November 2024. So I've seen a lot of changes. And I was asking the Vice Chancellor, like, how many students do you have in the final year who will be graduating? She said about 250. So I think it's very exciting. If you imagine that when the University of Ibadan when it opened its doors to students in January 1948, there were just 104 students. 104 students that came to UI. In fact, some of them came from Yaba Higher College to continue their degree. But now the university has almost 40,000 students. Of course, the University of Ibadan is not the most, I mean, we don't have the highest number of students. And the VC also alluded to it, that it's not just the number of students that is the critical factor. I mean, the first dean of postgraduate school at University of Ibadan, who was my physics teacher when I was in prelim 1977, Professor Ete of blessed memory, used to tell us that the number of graduates or even PhD that you produce is like the soft currency. But the hard currency is what is the impact? How many publications have you been able to produce by your faculty and the students? Then innovations, patents, and all that. So it's really very important. I mean, if they ask any of us here to mention the two leading universities in the United Kingdom, it's obvious. It's going to be Oxford and Cambridge. Others follow. I'm sure they don't even, they are not the most populated, they are not these two universities with the highest number of students. But when you think in terms of how many prime ministers of UK that had come out of Oxford or Cambridge, or if they ask you of Harvard, Harvard is just having about 19 or 22,000 students, and there is nowhere for them to grow. They are in Boston, so they are surrounded by the city, unless they go vertically by having high rises. So, but everybody talks about Harvard, MIT, which is just across the river. So it's important that, it's a private university, but I think you have started on a very good note. I think a university opens its doors to students in 2015, from what I saw. So 11 years is really very short. Even University of Ibadan, 78 years, is just within the rounding off error when you compare it with Oxford or Cambridge that have been there for well over 500 years. But maybe in our climb, we say University of Ibadan is the oldest. But still less than 80 years. But of course, and I must also commend the management of this university, because this program was slated for 11. I think we were ready by 11:15 to process, because some other places, when the program is 11, by 11:30, people are still dragging their feet. Even the KBSs, they were here before 11, because the university must be known for something, and the culture is very important. The culture is something, or tradition, you cannot measure it, but when you see it, you feel it. So it's really very important. And I'm not surprised, because the immediate past Vice Chancellor of this place, Professor Chinedu, she's a native of UI, and the current one is a native of UI. The next one will also still be native of UI. So I thank you for inviting me. That's just on a lighter note. So the title that I was given by Madam Vice Chancellor is Consolidating Postgraduate Education in Nigerian Universities. Of course, I also add that you have just admitted the first set of postgraduate students. And I think it's also good. If university was established in 2015, so we are talking about 11 years, because some universities, they will more or less start postgraduate I think the university was established in 2015, so maybe you produce the first set of graduates around 2019, 2020. So you have taken your time. Of course, there was COVID. So I got this one from the website. Greetings from High Chief. She's greeting and welcoming all of us to this event. And I copied this one. It says the strength of every mansion is in its foundation. So I believe, and I understand that Mama Chief Dr. Winifred Awoshika is probably the only Nigerian who has nursery, primary, secondary, university, and now even postgraduate. That she's the only one that has that record. Some have only university, some only secondary school, some primary and secondary. So we then the Vice Chancellor, and I use her as a point of contact to all the members of the Board of Trustees, the Council, the Senate, management and staff, because the individuals who are here, the staff, whether administrative, academic, is really very important. When I was in secondary school, they taught us economics, factors of production, say land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, but labor is the most important. Because if you have buildings, computers, there are no human beings to operate them, then it will not amount to much. So we congratulate all those who are part of the Chrisland University project. So you say you have 4 colleges, maybe 4 or 5. Then 1 faculty, I don't know which one is that faculty. About 21 programs, then about 2,500 students. Of course, this is a lot. Because at times we criticize the universities that we don't know what you are doing. And I look at it, there are so many research institutes in Nigeria. Of course, we have one in just our neighbor in UI, NISA, Nigerian Institute of Social and Economic Research. So all they do is to do research. They don't have students. But we teach students. Because a student that you produce from here, you don't know where he or she will find himself or herself 2 years, 3 years down the line. So to that extent, it's very difficult. Some of them will graduate, maybe NYC, they even come and serve in a OGTV. So, they are products of this university. Some of them will become entrepreneurs. Some will emigrate. In fact, most of them, I think they want to emigrate. So why not? At least they can be, some of us are too old to emigrate. they can be remitting money to us. So it's really very important. Because when you criticize universities at what are they doing, at least they are producing students. Just like, I think maybe it was the Vice Chancellor. I mean, from one cartoon that I have here, I mean, UI, in spite of the COVID and the ASU strike, I mean, on the average, we produce like 400 PhDs every year. Even that is the only thing we do. I think they should clap for us. Not to talk of the publications and the rest of it. Because these people, they also go elsewhere. I mean, of course, some of them are going to be, I mean, I don't think UI can employ more than 50 new lecturers, I mean, or maximum 100 in a year. I mean, now we have 1,961 academic staff, and some of us have been there for 30 or more years. So the remaining 300 PhDs that we produce, you have to go to Chrisland, Unilag, just like some of those who finish from Unilag and also come to us. And like I said, some of them will go abroad. So the university ecosystem is really very important. And I mean, there was a time I was in Pretoria, University of Pretoria, and I met one of my colleagues from UI, Professor Falade, and I asked him, Falade, UI and the University of Pretoria, we produce about the same number of PhDs every year. But when you look at the quantum of publications from University of Pretoria, which is one of the 6 leading universities in South Africa, it outstrips our own in UI. Falade didn't have to think about it. He said it's because they are well funded and they have facilities for postdoctoral fellowships. So people have finished their PhD before they can even get employment. They be postdoctoral fellows. All they are doing is just to be doing research. They don't supervise students. So, and that will contribute towards the publication profile of the university. Just to underscore the fact that funding is very important. I'm sure if the VCI now goes for a conference and finds a professor of organometallic chemistry somewhere, say, okay, come to Chrisland University for 1 semester. He or she will not mind, but you have to provide accommodation, transport, then a reasonable stipend. So funding is so central. So some of the colleges you have, this may not be precise. College of Arts Management and Social Sciences, College of Basic Medical Sciences, Natural and Applied Sciences, College of Law, the Faculty of Nursing Science. But like I said, University of Ibadan, even though it was not even a full-fledged university, it was a college, or University of London. Only 3 faculties, Arts, Science, and Medicine, that UI started with. So we should not despise little beginnings. But as the last count now, we have a College of Medicine, we have Postgraduate College, we have about 21 faculties. So things keep improving. Of course, we have to keep a tab on the quality of whatever you are doing. Your graduates cannot come out, you produce a student in geology, it doesn't even know the difference between igneous rock and sedimentary rock. So, I mean, you will not be doing yourself and the system much credit. So I will just quickly go through this postgraduate training at Ibadan, because the types of reference that the Vice Chancellor gave me is very long. That it was almost like a lecture in its own. That I should emphasize what we did at Ibadan, or what was done at Ibadan even before I was born. I mean, the University College was established in 1948. That was 10 years before I was born. But since we are standing on the shoulder of giants, what we met, the important thing is that we try to keep the tradition that some of them who taught us. So some of the key words we include postgraduate education. Of course, a student comes here, BSc Economics or BSc Accounting, it's undergraduate. Then wants to add something to it. Then postgraduate or advanced study. Nigerian universities that we are familiar with, financial autonomy, sustainability. I think a few months ago, the federal government said they were going to place a moratorium on establishment of new universities. But just this last week, I read somewhere that Taraba State government wants to establish a new university. And because education is on the concurrent list, state houses of assembly, they have the power to pass a bill, and the governor will sign it into law. It becomes a university, but of course funding may become a challenge. So according to Cicero, the great Roman philosopher, orator and statesman, he said to be ignorant of the past is to remain always a child. Then you have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulder of giants. So some of the things we are talking about, I mean, it's a collective achievement by all of us. It's just some of us were at the right place at the right time. Research in Ibadan. A culture of research was built into the academic life of University College Ibadan from the beginning. That was in 1948. The first principal, Lord Mellanby, supervised, he produced the first PhD, the late Dr. Onambamiro. He was from, I think, either Agoiwe or Jebigo. So everything Ogun State is always taking it and marginalizing my people in Osun. one of the first official publications of University College proclaimed in 1949 that teaching is not the only function of a university college. So here, just this, I mean, you can replace University College Ibadan with Chrisland University. Teaching is not the only thing you do. At least as important is research and original work that must be proceeding in many directions. Because you want to break new grounds. And when students do PhD, for example, the external examiner that you bring from wherever, what is interested in this, what has this candidate contributed to knowledge? It doesn't mean that a PhD is going to solve all the problem of humanity, but it must extend the body of knowledge so that another student coming and continue from there. Then there was evidence, effort to, because for when you have a postgraduate school, you find out that almost all the academic staff in the university, whether it's UI or Chrisland, they have interest in what is happening there. The senior ones, like the chairman of the organizing committee, they are professors. So they are supervising students who are postgraduate students. Then the one that are just joining as assistant lecturer, they are also students. So if you now look at that ecosystem, you find that almost all your academic staff have one thing or the other to do with the postgraduate school, either as students or as master lecturers or PhD supervisors. So it's really very critical to whatever you do here. Many of the teachers that were hired at University College Ibadan were people with good first degrees, showing promise, but with little or no university teaching or research experience. It was required that such full-time staff, no matter from which university they took their first degrees, would be allowed to register as part-time students for higher degrees, because it was just the first university institution in Nigeria. So where the US hope to get staff. So you have to improvise. And 5 years, 10 years down the line, you may have been you could have become almost self-sufficient. Most of the staff at University College at that time, they were expatriates. And when you buy money, and those who succeeded in collecting enough data for their thesis in this way, they tried to return to Britain to write up their material and seek new appointments. So Japa syndrome started as far back as that time. So some of them never came back here. Dr. S.D. Onobamiro, in fact, the postgraduate building at UI was named after him recently. He was appointed lecturer research fellow in parasitology in Professor Malambi's own research laboratory. And he was one of the very few and the only Nigerian who completed a doctorate program in this way. University College was established in 1948, so the principal, now the vice chancellor, was supervising. So by 1952, Dr. Onobamiro, very brilliant man, had completed a PhD. And you can see he was the only Nigerian who did a doctorate program in this way. The first postgraduate degree was completed by Sanya Onobamiro, a research student of Melambi, under a special, so it was not PhD, but it was PhD London. But Melambi, who was the boss of University College, he provided leadership by example. So he was the head of the institution, but he himself was supervising students. So he cannot just be assigning to other people to supervise. So he led by example. This was barely 4 years after the University College Ibadan was established. And it's reputed that the degree by the late Dr. Onobamiro of Blessed Memory, it was the first to be completed at any British colonial university. This Melambi, he said the provision of teaching for our students and the prosecution of original research by our staff were our most important duties. So if you have the head of an institution, of course it's not just the head, it permeates down to even the most junior member of staff. If you teach your students very well and your staff, they are able to conduct research, so what is left? So you can see this as summarized. It said provision of teaching for our students and the prosecution of original research by our staff were our most important duty. So the vice chancellor has to worry about how you can bring out the best in the staff and also the best in the students. This was published the year I was born, actually, Melambi 1958. So they were awarding general degrees between 1951 and 1954. In 1948, it was decided that apart from classics, that's the Department of Classics, you know, UIS is the only university in Nigeria that has a Department of Classics. There was a vice chancellor of University of Ghana in Legon that we invited to UI. He said the Ghana parliament, they used to harass him that why is he running classics. He said he told them that only very famous universities have a Department of Classics. That's on a lighter note. So only few of them, staff, library, laboratory, and other facilities, they were barely adequate. So because you cannot have the full complement of what you needed at the start. So the first batch of general degree students graduated in 1951, and that the London examiners who came to examine this, they said at least one of them would have got at least second-class honors because it was not general degree. That there was somebody like the late Adi Ajayi. I mean, did general degree before he went to UK, but he came back to UI before he became vice chancellor at the University of Lagos. Okay. Since most of you also have the booklet, so I will not be reading all these things line by line. There were criticisms from Nigerian members of council and members of the legislative council, from the handful of Nigerian members of staff who felt discriminated against, and also constant pressure from the students themselves for honors degree. So instead of BA general honors, they wanted to do honors degree. Since an honors degree was not only an avenue for higher studies, but also to more rapid preferment, even in the public service. The general degree involves equal degree level study in 3 different disciplines and was perceived as more difficult than studying in depth in one discipline only. However, it was the fact that the general degree was so poorly rated in comparison with the honors degree that provoked the pressure for the honors degree. You know, now our students all have a BSc honors, so not general honors, but just to trace the historical development. It was in response to such pressure that honors degree courses began to be made generally available in the 1952-1953 session. So from 1955, that's almost 71 years ago, the first batch of honors degrees graduated in 1955. It was decided that those with second-class honors upper division who could be persuaded to resist the bright prospects in the regional civil services, which were Nigerianizing their staffs rapidly, were to be trained largely at Ibadan for higher degrees of the University of London. So you have 5 students, just we have EO Emovon in chemistry, Ezeilo, Olaniyan, Owumechile, Ifemesia. The point is that just this handful of people, they later became very famous in the Nigerian academic system. Emovon was maybe foundation VC at the University of Jos. Ezeilo was the first professor of mathematics in Nigeria, along with Professor Olubunma. Olaniyan was a professor at the University of Lagos. Owumechile, I became a professor at the age of 30, because some of those things may inspire people. At the age of 30, he had become a professor of physics in Ibadan. Okay, I move on. He died 5-6 years ago. The first Nigerian to obtain PhD degree at the University of London. He became professor in 1971. So it must have been about 42 or so then. Ezeilo, I already said he got his PhD in 1959. He was promoted professor in 1964. He was VC at Nsukka and also at Bayero. Caleb Olaniyan graduated with honors in zoology in 1954. He was 27 years old when he successfully defended his PhD thesis. You know, that was the age in which some of us were just registering for PhD. But it's okay. What will be, will be. Between 1957 and 1964, he worked as a lecturer, later as senior lecturer at Ibadan, before he moved to Unilag. By 1965, he was just 35 years old. He was appointed a full professor. So maybe it's not easy these days. I already mentioned Agodo Owumechile. He died just about 2 years ago. He was VC at Obafemi Awolowo University, Ife. So I said he became professor at the age of 30. Okay. This was one of them too. He just, you can see, 1925. So he lived up to the age of 99. So expansion of postgraduate program, so much for the history. So, you know, by 1960, we had new universities coming up. Nsukka, Ife, Ahmadu Bello, even though they were state universities or regional universities that time, before the Obasanjo, Murtala Mohammed government took them over as federal universities. So Ibadan graduates, they did well in the public service and they were sought after by the newer universities, but it was said that they were arrogant, elitist, and imbued with false values arising out of the restrictive admissions policy of the colonial university. In fact, some of those students those days who could not cope with their studies at University College, but they went abroad and they earned their degrees. So they felt the standard was too high. According to the first principal, Kenneth Dike, he said one of our main tasks in the coming curriculum is to expand and develop postgraduate work in all the faculties. It's important to have a postgraduate program. Otherwise, we just be teaching only first degree students. No other college or university in this country is as yet, this was in 1960, is as yet in a position to do this. And it is the clear mission of Ibadan to give an energetic and imaginative lead in this direction. In his foundation address in 1962, he said that we regard development of research facilities here as a matter of high priority, not only for Ibadan and the other Nigerian universities, but for the country as a whole. So, like I said, university has to influence the immediate environment and the larger society. By 1962, about 54 students registered for higher degree. So, I don't know how many students are registering for your postgraduate course, but you imagine that it's not, because you have to insist on quality. It's not, you don't really need a crowd. Then the Civil War came, so the postgraduate population even dwindled. By 1966, total of 220 students were registered. Then the number was fluctuating because of the Civil War, but I think thankfully from 1970, when the Civil War ended, things have been moving forward. So because the postgraduate programs will be based in the various departments, the postgraduate school or postgraduate college is basically to coordinate. So the university established this higher degree committee, just like a mini senate. They also believe that the processing of postgraduate matters was cumbersome in spite of not having so many students. So they had, by 1970, they had the board of postgraduate studies. Because management is always very important. I was discussing with somebody in another, a state university said their postgraduate program is not well structured. Students just come, they don't know when to finish. So then the other students will not patronize you. And now, I don't know whether I have the slide here. We have about 310 universities in Nigeria. Whether you like it or not, there is going to be competition. So the Board of Postgraduate Studies was given the power to exercise its own initiatives in the development of postgraduate work in the university, because the Vice Chancellor alone cannot do everything. So it would be nice for people at departments, at faculty to come up with other initiatives that you think, of course, you then have to let the Deputy Vice Chancellor or the Dean or the Vice Chancellor to be aware of what you are doing, so far as all of us are contributing towards the growth of the university. Like I have some slides here, about 5 of them, just to some of the publications that were made when I was Dean of Postgraduate School. But anytime, if you are responsible, to inform the Vice Chancellor, you say, oh, you guys go ahead, that you had my support. So we are always encouraged. I will still allude to that one when I bring something about one of our publications, how people will write PhD thesis. So by 1975-1976, the postgraduate school at Ibadan was declared a center of excellence for postgraduate enrollment. This was about maybe 50 years ago. And then by June 1978, Senate approved the reorganization of the board. Then, so what we have was postgraduate school until a few years ago. So this was the first dean of the postgraduate school, Professor Ete. He taught me physics, but I couldn't get his picture from the internet. He died about 8 years ago now. Where he lived to about 71 plus 18, about 89. Then the postgraduate teachers, they are based in the academic department. So a university must be known for, so maybe your department of accounting is the best in West Africa, so why not? So it's not just going to be, it's not just at your Vice Chancellor's office is the most beautiful, but what is going on there? The chemistry or biochemistry department, faculty of law, what are they doing? So the postgraduate teachers, they are based, you must have a department. You cannot just be a professor of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You must have a base. There is no staff of the university that doesn't have a department. If you are in poultry, that's your department. If you are in internal audit, and if you are in geology, so that is your unit. I know you don't have a geology program here yet. So the input of the teachers into the decision-making processes of the postgraduate school are made through their respective deans. So they have deans, with time, they also have sub-deans. Management, well, the position of sub-dean, I think in UI, maybe it was introduced in the mid-90s. I was sub-dean at the postgraduate school. I was a third. There were only 2 sub-deans before me, and each of them spent 2 years. And I was sub-dean in 1999, meaning that the position of sub-dean was only created in about 1995 in UI. So the postgraduate school is a central coordinating body. It acts on behalf of Senate. So like in UI, when students are even registering the PhD the title of their PhD. It doesn't come to Senate. So it has been devolved to the postgraduate school, now postgraduate college. Maybe initially everything used to come to Senate. Just to save time, the postgraduate school was actively involved in the initiation and development of new relevant interfaculty postgraduate program. You know, the initiative must come, it must be bottom up. It's not just the vice chancellor to sit in his office and say, okay, let's introduce a new course in cyber security. But people in that department, maybe computer science, you think with the CCMAS of NUC, let's break our computer science into, like UI. Computer science was maybe introduced around in the early 1970s. But because of, in response to NUC, talking of CCMAS, so the whole department of computer science now became a faculty with 4 departments. So things are growing. And their quota used to be like 80 students. I'm talking of UI. Now it suddenly went to 200. Because the population of our youths keep increasing. So we have a responsibility to provide the avenue for them. This was just last year or so. The idea of transforming the postgraduate school into a postgraduate college was conceived in the early 90s when I was a dean. And people were saying whether we wanted to become college. I wasn't even bothered. Because I was not, I mean, if I had a postgraduate college, we had postgraduate school, but there was something they were doing at Ife that we couldn't do. So I said it was just fanciful. But later, one thing led to the other, we converted the postgraduate school to postgraduate college. And we give them some autonomy, even though because I also told them, as dean of postgraduate school, I was not signatory to any bank account. Any account I'm not a signatory to, I don't even care about it. So from postgraduate school to postgraduate college, headed by Pooh. This was just in 2018. By then I was vice chancellor, so it was easy for us to push it through. And we have a deputy bursar at the postgraduate school, now postgraduate college. Then Professor Babalola was the first provost. He's now the vice chancellor at Bowen University in Iwo. So this is just tracing the transformation from higher degrees committee to board, then now to postgraduate college. So this one is showing the number of master degree graduates from UI. So in 2015, about 4,526. It keeps fluctuating, but year 2020 was very low, only 219. In fact, that year, the committee of provosts and deans, they met and said we should not do convocation. I said, no lie, we are going to do it because of COVID. Then also in 2022, there was a strike. Only 642 masters. Again, it's not just the number that is important. I think another one, okay, this one is also showing a PhD. About 450 per year. The highest was in 2023. But there was a strike the previous year, so that were overlapped. So on the average, at least 450 in a year. So if a university produces 450, 500 PhDs in a year, I think the university has tried. There's always room for improvement. Some of the challenges, degree completion period, at times, because the students, they are working, they are also studying, they are working full-time, they are also studying full-time. So it becomes a challenge. Then artificial intelligence, and these are some of the things that are coming on board. So what are the roles and importance of postgraduate research? We already mentioned that you do research in the university departments. We also have benefactorial research institutes like NISA, CRIN, and the rest of them. Then you have hybrid research organization and institutes. Then the private sector, they also conduct industries like Nigerian breweries, Dangote, Lafarge. They also have, they do in-house research work, oil companies. So in the university, some of the human resources that we engage for research, amateur researchers, like your BSc students in the final year, they are amateurs, but it doesn't mean that they cannot do useful work, just that they are still learning. So it's not to suggest that anything they do should be dismissed. And some of them are in fact, most of them are very brilliant, just for us to provide them with the enabling environment. Then we have the academic staff, then specialist academic staff, specialist research staff, like the postdoctoral fellows. I already mentioned that in our environment, it's always very difficult for a university to employ, let's say, 10 lecturers or 10 PhD holders. They won't be teaching, just to be conducting research. I don't think the person will approve that. That just be doing research, don't teach. Yes. Because most of the time we're even understaffed. But that is what happens elsewhere, including South Africa. That's why they are expelling our people. Go back to your country. the postgraduate students, they are the engine of a university's research effort. So you cannot do much research if you don't have postgraduate students. Many institutions are unable to sustain any meaningful research effort without postgraduate students because the lecturers, senior lecturer, professors, leaders, they are busy doing lectures, having meetings. But if they have postgraduate students that they are supervising, that they are mentoring, then university is a going concern. This university will still be, will still exist in 50 years to come, 100 years to come. So you are building up. But postgraduate students, they come 3 years, 4 years, they have finished their program, they are leaving. As they are leaving, you are also bringing in the new set of students. So it is a going concern, just like First Bank that has been there since 1894. This, you said difficulty in funding staff who so proposes to conduct. It's very difficult for universities in Nigeria to have staff who are only doing research but are not teaching. We don't have funding for that. So postgraduate students is spend 3 to 5 years or thereabout. Then the postgraduate students can always help us with our research work. This is a typical organogram for admission of postgraduate matters. So the department is the foundation. And you know what the founder of these universities mentioned in one of the first set of slides that I showed. He said a building is as strong as its foundation. So if your department, which is at the base, if you don't have serious research going on, then nothing for the higher levels to do. So from the department, it goes to faculty or school, then it goes to the board, then the Senate is the highest body in the university for academic matters. Academic leadership, all of us are leaders. Even the person you are to engage as graduate assistant is also advising students. So he or she is a leader. Leadership will not be limited to those who are readers or senior lecturers alone, but the gentleman or gentle lady who is an assistant lecturer or graduate assistant is also providing leadership. So some part of the reason why some departments are doing well, why others are not, can be attributed to the quality of leadership. So it's really very important. Like I was telling somebody, like 20 years ago when I left I was going to leave as a dean of postgraduate school. Our department had interim accreditation from NUC. And people said I should come and become head of department. So people were asking me, is it promotion? If you were dean as of July 31st and by 1st August, you became head of department. But at least it's a call of duty, it doesn't really matter. I mean, one of our senior colleagues, Professor Farumbi's boss, he was acting vice chancellor. Then after that, he became head of department of biochemistry. So it's not a big deal. And you find out that in the university, the department is the most important unit. Because that is the academic self. The department is the most important. The capacity for development-oriented research, interfacing with research for development initiative in relevant national socio-economic sector. The views alluded to it, research is not an end in itself, but we also want development, innovation. It's not knowledge for knowledge's sake, but to contribute to improvement of the standard of living of our country. Broad-based knowledge, lifelong learning skills. Of course, by the time I was an undergraduate at the University of Ibadan, I never even saw a computer, talk less of using one. But things are changing. Even, of course, there was no cell phone until Baba Basanjo introduced a mobile phone in the year 2001 or thereabouts. So you have to engage in lifelong learning. Capacity for teamwork. So you cannot be an island unto yourself. You must learn from others. Even though you two should be able to bring something to the table. Capacity for practice-oriented participatory teaching. Capacity to engage with society. Because we exist because of the society. I'm sure the community will be very happy that there is a university 20 years ago. Chrisland was not in existence. But we thank God. And you know, Ogun State has the largest number of universities in this country now. Almost 20, even Abeokuta alone, so many. Capacity to engage with society, focusing on development needs areas and drawing from indigenous knowledge system as much as possible. Well, this is a workspace for managers and leaders, so you have administrators, you have managers. Leaders have to set the pace. Where do you want your department to be? Like I said, 20 years ago, when our department had interim accreditation, it was so embarrassing. So we said we had to do everything humanly possible to ensure that we got full accreditation the next time NUC was going to visit. So building leadership and management capacity, because all of us we come out of different disciplines, but you still need that coordination for us to be able to move forward. Otherwise, our units will just decay. Postgraduate education is at the apex of higher education. It is at this stage that the analytical and imaginative capacities of the human mind are developed to a very high level required for making significant contribution to overall research output. That's not to underemphasize what we do at undergraduate level. It is through postgraduate education that university professorate is created. Most universities will say if you don't have a PhD, you cannot become a professor. I think things are changing. In some disciplines, before it was not compulsory that you must have a PhD, but now it's the norm. Created to safeguard knowledge and transmit it from one generation to the next, reproducing the education system and ensuring its viability over time. Some of the strategies for addressing this, then the trend towards a problem and theme-based as well as multidisciplinary approach. We have mentioned multidisciplinary. Most of the discoveries now are not limited to a particular discipline. It's at the boundary between various disciplines. So you have people in computing working with people in the biological sciences. So you cannot say only your discipline. The need for professional socialization through multiple mentoring in postgraduate training. Many graduate students will wish to have one supervisor to deal with instead of having multiple supervisors. Many institutions provide 2 or 3 or more supervisors. They have a supervisory committee to work with, for the student to work with. While bringing different and varied perspectives to bear on the topic, this approach also helps to build teamwork. It's clear that students need to function in the real world. But when you finish from the university, you're not going to be alone. You're going to work with people. Some of whom may have a little knowledge of what you are doing, so you have to then take the pain to explain to them. Inclusion of an international component and collaboration in postgraduate training. So if you have international dimension, it can help our students to broaden their horizon, widen their scope. I know students who are in European studies, at times they go to Benin Republic. I think now there is a French village in Topo Badagry because of challenges with cost and all that. So that they can be used to what is happening in other jurisdictions, deepening the literature content of their study and open access to data, technologies and equipment that will not also be locally available. Development of a split site program. There was a time the Department of Computer Science in UI, they had collaboration with some universities in France, so that the student can spend some time in Ibadan and sometimes in France. Then also Department of Civil Engineering, they had that kind of opportunity. Looking it's possible for a postgraduate student to pursue a program in a local university like a UI, then also to spend some time. Some of them were going to University of West of England in the UK, which had better facilities. Apart from broadening the outlook of the student, this approach enhances the chances of the student to return to Nigeria on the completion of his or her program. Most postgraduate programs emphasize professional training, which includes enhancing presentation skills, teaching, grant writing, because people have to apply for grants to support their research work. The people in the university, they think they have brilliant ideas, but they don't have funding. And that was why I said, you have this university, granted that this university is private, but since you also you are relevant to state government, there should be ways in which your faculty, your students can also approach the Ogun State government as to how to collaborate. Comprehensive national research policies should be developed as a matter of urgency to guide research. Collaboration of all stakeholders is necessary in this regard. Universities, industry, research councils, and civil society should play their respective roles with government taking the leadership position. Research policies should reflect national development priorities. Individual universities such as Queensland should develop their research plans. So you need to know what are the various themes, whether it's climate change or poverty alleviation that your staff and students will be interested in, even while you are not stopping them from looking at some problems that have never been considered in any domain. Another strategy, incentives should be instituted to reward research effort. So when your students and staff have maybe published papers, there should be ways of encouraging them. They want to go to conference, because some of these also have financial implications. More research grants with personnel salary top-up can be a good incentive. Facilities should be provided to step up postgraduate training, particularly in science and technology, as a basis for developing future generation of academics. Universities should provide facilities that promote the transfer of technology from institutions to industry. I think the Vice Chancellor was for many years director of Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation in UI. So I think she's at home with this. There should be a special forum organized annually to facilitate the meeting between researchers and industry. I think in UI we have a research and Development Fair, UIRSDev, every November, just shortly before the convocation, so that we bring people from outside to come and see what we are doing within the four walls of our university, not just an ivory tower. Research centers, technology parks, and incubators should be established to facilitate collaboration between researchers and industry. Because we may not have all the money, but the people in the private sector, a student in computer science may develop a software that a bank is interested in, or a fintech, and the sharing of research results and the benefit. Then the creation of a one-stop shop research website where both young and old academics will turn for information, advice, and guidance on research is long overdue. This is to enable researchers learn about what has already been done in the areas of specialization. You are not expected to reinvent the wheel. Management of research should no longer be on ad hoc or part-time basis. So we need a research management unit, even if only to let them know that funders is trying to give some grants. So maybe there will be problems with for being a private university, but at times we can collaborate with a public university. I think at that point we accept that. Like many other aspects of human endeavor, management and admission of research is being professionalized. All universities should be encouraged to set up quality assurance units. Maybe you already do that. Even students assess their lecturers now, led by senior academics, to give academic leadership and promote research throughout the institution. When this talking of quality assurance, I mean, it's not only when NUC is coming that we talk of quality assurance. Even your lecturers, when they are setting their questions, the HOD has to be sure that they even have a marking guide. Have they covered the syllabus before the exam is coming? So that's internal quality assurance, which is a continuous thing. You must do things right the first time and always. We don't have to wait for NUC to come. Another strategy in the long term, issues of recruitment of staff, retention, and development of academic, professional, and senior administrative staff in African universities should be taken seriously. The current sporadic approach should be replaced by a systematic and planned strategy to grow and renew the next generation of academic staff and university leaders. Then strategic leadership and direction. Leadership which identifies areas requiring red, yellow, and green cards. So you have to know whether there is a fire on the mountain. Then the vision should spread from one to several others. Then the structure of universities should change to one that facilitates research. Then several bodies in the university. Then there is a sense of urgency to stimulate research. A lot of evidence abounds to show the cost of poor research performance in Africa. Well, so there should be code of practice and ethics. Can I have water, please? Let me. Sorry to bother you. The students should be able to move from one level to the other. the postgraduate school should make appropriate arrangements for induction. Because when students are coming from undergraduate, some of them have left the university many years ago before they decide to come for postgraduate studies. So it's good to induct them. You should not assume that it's not necessary. Let them know what is the difference between the undergraduate program that they completed many years ago and the master's or PhD. Then, what are the academic standards? Because at times a university may say when students do PhD, they need to have attended one conference or the other, or to even publish. But I think it's a good idea to let the students know what are the learning outcomes. So if a student claims that he has a BSc accountancy or accounting, eligible to go on field work or proposal and all that. Then subject-related research codes and ethics. Then program, because health and safety, very important. Like you right now, when people want to give their inaugural lecture, they must go to the health center and get a certificate of clean health so that we don't run into problems. So I was mentioning that these are some of the publications that we did. So the first one there, guidelines to writing a doctoral thesis, is the thing was that many of our students, postgraduate students, research students in particular, they were having issues when they were registering the title of their thesis. So a number of us now came together to say, let's write a kind of manual so as students will know what is expected. Because in UI, maybe also other universities, when students are doing a PhD, they have to register the title of their thesis or the proposed title of their thesis. I used a maximum of 500 words, but it was like the fear of the postgraduate school was becoming the beginning of wisdom. We now said if there's a problem, there must be a solution somewhere. It's just as we are mere mortals, we don't know what the solution is. Let's come together. In fact, I went to Futa, Akure, one evening like this, and I said this thing that has been given a problem. How do we solve it? This is a university, we should be proposing solutions to the outside world, even what is staring us in the face. So that was how we came out. So we gathered our colleagues, maybe about 9 of us. We wrote that. And we had a 2-day workshop with various people from various departments. Towards the end of that, during the closing ceremony, our deputy vice chancellor now said, okay, you guys, you have come up with guidelines to writing a doctoral thesis. Fine. But if you want to write a thesis comes at the end of your research program. What of even the research itself? I say, voila, again. So that was how we now came about this methodology of basic and applied research. Like all of us here who have had opportunity to supervise students, you find out that one of the most difficult tasks is how do you even get a topic to give your students? Come up with a topic that is researchable. Then after that, they submit a proposal. A proposal is just like a roadmap. Over the next 3 years, 4 years, I want to do my PhD. These are the things I want to do. This is the problem I want to attempt to solving. Then which techniques are you going to use? Are the facilities available in Nigeria? If they are not available, what next? Then at what stage do you go to the field to collect your data? And when you write up your thesis, it is only at that stage that you talk of writing a thesis. Even though these days now, all of us have access to Microsoft Word. You start compiling everything, even your literature, your references. You start compiling them from day one. You don't wait till the end of 3 years before you start. I mean, even when you write your proposal, you find out that your proposal takes the same format as that of the final thesis. But the proposal is say, this is what I want to do. It's just like this morning I came from Lagos. I'll be going to Christian University. So that was what I proposed. But now this is, I just want to check the time. 1:25. if someone now asks me, what have you done since morning? I can now say, I woke up so time, I left Maryland at 5 minutes to 8. By 9:35, I was at Christian. So that's different. So I can reflect back on what I've done today. But yesterday, if somebody had asked me, what are your plans for tomorrow? I would say, okay, wake up, come to Christian. So that would have been like a proposal. Whereas now I can reflect back on what I've done. Okay. Okay, this was another one we wrote, planning and writing of grant-oriented research proposals. So I told Professor Bamiro, who was, then he was not yet Vice Chancellor, yes. But yeah, he had been Dean of Technology and Director of MIS. I know that he had a lot of experience. By the way, his hometown is not far from here. It's from Jewigo. That we wanted to carry out this, to organize a workshop on planning and writing of grant to research. I mean, a very dynamic one. He offered this help. So we had it over 2 days. And also Professor Shoyibo there is from Peru. So you see almost everybody is from Ogun State except me. So that was what we did. But of course, this was 2003. So a lot of things have moved. I was looking for this cartoon to show, but somehow I found it yesterday, just to show that what we are talking about is not just abstract. It's not, it doesn't mean that we have been able to solve all the problem of postgraduate education in Nigeria, but little steps. And like I said, exactly 20 years ago that I left postgraduate school. So after me, Popola served, after Popola, I think Jide Olorunishola, after Jide Olorunishola, Aderinto, and Babalola. Even the current one is also leaving at the end of this month. And remember, I mentioned at the beginning that all of us are standing on the shoulder of giants. So what we met there is what we have been trying to build on. So this was also, these were two of the publications that the postgraduate. So the postgraduate school is very central. And most of these, we didn't do them behind the back of our boss, the Vice Chancellor. So they were part of it. And the Vice Chancellor, part of the time, was Professor Falashe. He was always praising us, just go ahead. Then tracking the impact of research in Nigeria, done by Professor Gureji, Professor Oguniyi, and Professor Oli. This was another one, contemporary issues in research. So, I mean, some of the points that are mentioned in that booklet that the Vice Chancellor was kind enough to produce. And she gave me a copy when I went to our office, even in color. I know it must have cost the university a lot of money. I feel grateful to that. For that. So University of Ibadan, Code of Practice and Ethics, because ethics is very important. I think the Vice Chancellor alluded to that, ethics for research degree programs. These were published later when I was Deputy Vice Chancellor, Intellectual Property Policy, then policy on authorship of scholarly publications. Because at times 2-3 people, they will do a joint project, then something fantastic comes out, then the voila will start. Like in UI, when people are doing promotion for academic staff, it says you should share a percentage contribution. Somebody will now say, I did 95% of the work. My co-author should share the remaining 5%. So you need to have agreed on some of those things up front. So development of relevant knowledge and skills. We have to make arrangements to identify the training needs of our students, to identify the gaps, to provide opportunities for development, then to record the development of skills in a research training portfolio, to ensure that our students are introduced to relevant academic networks. So you need to let them know where to go, so that they're not just beating about the bush. I think I'm okay now. So to identify gaps, no, it's okay. No problem. To identify gaps, you know, even musicians, when they are doing their trade, they don't sit down these days. They rather stand up. To provide opportunities for development, to record development of skills in the research training portfolio. I thank you for your concern. I will be okay. To ensure that students are introduced to relevant academic networks. Then supervisory arrangements. I think when students are coming for the head of department, we know which lecturer is going to supervise students, a particular student. Like when I got to UK in September 1983, I was admitted for MSc. But my ambition was to actually do a PhD after the MSc. So the following morning, when I got to the department, I met with our head of department that I came for MSc, but I would still like to do PhD. So he said they didn't have a facility for the work I wanted to do, that I should go to university, I should try University of Birmingham. So that's the way it works. So if you don't have the facilities or you don't have a lecturer that is ready to supervise you, then you can advise the students to go elsewhere. I mean, you don't lose anything. Otherwise, the students will be stranded. To act as a research supervisor, members of staff will be required to demonstrate that they have recognized subject expertise in relevant fields and necessary skills and experience to direct the work of research students, to monitor their progress, and to provide appropriate support. Then staff members who have not previously supervised the research students, they are required to undertake appropriate initial training and development, including but not limited to acting. So a young lecturer can join a senior person as co-supervisor, so that the senior supervisor can mentor him. 2 years, 3 years, he or she will have matured, maybe at risen to the level of senior lecturer. And then, so it's very interesting. You come to the department, you are the most junior member of academic staff. 15 years down the line, you find out that you are almost the most senior. If you are patient, you have not jackpot. The postgraduate school should maintain an up-to-date register of staff members that are qualified to engage in research supervision. So you must say in the department there are 10 lecturers, but out of those 10 lecturers, only 6 of them can supervise students for now. Maybe another 2 years, 3 years, you can have more. In fact, when I was maybe sub-dean and later dean of postgraduate school, I remember a particular department, actually a center, they were only doing professional master programs. And professional master programs, the way we understand it in US, is that they are terminal degrees. So when students now finish those professional courses, they won't be able to proceed. So I now told them that it means your department can never grow. Your lecturers will then have to go to other departments to do PhD. So little by little, the professional master's program they were running, we said, can they modify it so that they can also have an academic master's component? Can you hear me? So they started, that was the Center for Urban and Regional Planning, I remember vividly. So, but now only God knows how many PhD students they would have produced in the last 2 decades. So you have to start from somewhere. Then if a lecturer is going to be absent maybe for 1 year, you don't want the students to be stranded. So you have to make adequate arrangements. So you need to also specify what's the maximum number of students that a lecturer can supervise. Otherwise, the lecturer will be overloaded. Maybe in UI it's about 6 or something like that. I don't know whether it has changed now. Then also external examiner. This is part of quality assurance. Because when students, even undergraduates, you must bring external examiner, more so for masters and a PhD. But it's important for the external examiner to also be very active in research. You don't want to bring somebody, external examiner, whose latest publication was 10 years ago. So you think he or she is still, and you bring him, you then be pontificating on your programs. An individual should not be eligible to serve as external examiner after 3 years of disengagement. So people who have retired for more than 3 years, because the idea is that they are no longer, they may not be active again. You don't want to bring them as external examiner, just as part of quality assurance. Well, head of department, through the departmental postgraduate committee, they are responsible for nominating who can serve as external examiner. So master, doctorate, we know these are the common. So there is also postgraduate diploma, academic qualifications. And the university has to decide what are the entry requirements. Then English language for foreign students. If a student is coming from Benin Republic, where French is the official language, then you want him or her to be able to communicate. I need to understand lectures that are given in English, and he or she has to write the thesis in English. So we said the thesis is, for this purpose, a long written essay. It is the acquisition and dissemination of new knowledge. There must be something new that we didn't know before. If a process was taking 10 minutes and you can reduce it to 5 minutes, then it means you have contributed. Acquisition and dissemination. Okay, I think the last 2 slides were repeated. Bullet points, rather. The PhD should be an exposition of an original piece of research. It should cover a field that fascinates the candidate sufficiently. The student must be interested in what he's doing, he or she. God, there will be frustration down the line. It will not be because the supervisor doesn't like my face. So the student has to be well determined. It's your work. The lecturer or supervisor or mentor is to guide you. Then you should build on what you have done before. For example, your coursework at master's level, you may then want to develop it because your supervisor cannot know everything. It should be in an area of warm research activity rather than in the cold, too competitive, soon to be extinguished area. But you must have a strategic plan. After the PhD or master's, what next? Be in an area near the mainstreams of a discipline or straddling two disciplines. So you have to decide if it's between chemistry and geology and all that. Then there must be accessible sources of data. How are you going to collect your data? Then you should open it to a program of research projects after your PhD has been completed. So what next? So when you write a thesis, quite often you have to say these are the recommendations for further work, because you realize that it's not so much as if you have solved all the problems. So what are the recommendations for further work? Then it provides skills and information for obtaining a job in a non-academic field. So it's not everybody that has a PhD that wants to work in the university. Somebody may go and work in the government or in the private sector. So there should be opportunity for that. Then learning outcome in terms of the research skills and techniques, the research environment, research management. Then the key transferable skills. What are the personal effectiveness, communication skills, networking and team working, then career management. Specifically for the research skills, ability to recognize and validate problems. And the more you do this thing, the more you get involved in it and you like to explore. Original, independent, and critical thinking, and ability to develop theoretical concepts. You don't have to, you have to be asking questions, why is this thing like this and not the other way around? A knowledge of recent advances within your field and in related areas. An understanding of relevant research methodologies and techniques, and the appropriate application within one's research field. Ability to analyze critically and evaluate one's findings and those of others. Ability to summarize, document, report, and reflect on progress. When you have to document research environment, it shows a broad understanding of the context in which research takes place, demonstrate awareness of issues relating to the rights of other researchers and of research subjects, confidentiality, attribution, copyright, ethics, malpractice, ownership of data, and the requirements of the Data Protection Act. Understand relevant health and safety issues and demonstrate responsible working practices. Then understand the process for funding. We alluded to the issue of grants, looking for grants, and evaluation of research. Then gain an understanding of the process of academic or commercial exploitation of research results. The idea is that it's very expensive to conduct research, and if there are useful results there, it should commercialize them. Management, to apply effective project management through the setting of research goals, intermediate milestones, and prioritization of activities. Design and execute systems for the acquisition and collation of information through the effective use of appropriate resources and equipment. Identify and assess appropriate bibliographical resources, archives, and other sources of relevant information. Use appropriate information technology for database management, recording and presenting information. Then still talking of personal effectiveness. Demonstrate a willingness and ability to learn and acquire knowledge. Be creative, innovative, and original in our approach to research. To demonstrate flexibility and open-mindedness. You should not always think that your research will lead in a particular direction. You have to be open-minded. Demonstrate self-awareness and the ability to identify your own training. Maybe you think you're not good in statistics. Then you go and learn it. Or ask somebody to assist. Demonstrate self-discipline. Show initiative. You can be able to work independently and be self-reliant. Communication. Because English is not our mother tongue. So all the same, we still have to. Because if I'm speaking Yoruba now, I should not assume everyone here will understand Yoruba. Whereas English, since English is the official language in Nigeria, it's safe for me to assume everyone here will understand. Also, if I'm not speaking my local dialect, it becomes a challenge. Construct coherent arguments and articulate ideas clearly to a range of audiences Okay. Okay, no problem. I will. Constructively defend research outcomes at seminars and viva outcomes. I will soon round up. Justify our own research to the funding bodies when we are seeking grants. Effectively support the learning of others when involved in teaching, mentoring, and demonstrating activities. Networking and team working, I think those ones are self-explanatory. To develop and maintain cooperative networks and working relationships with supervisors, colleagues, and peers within the institution and the wider research community. And understand one's behavior and impact on others when working in and contributing to the success of formal and informal teams. Listen, give, and receive feedback and respond prospectively to others. Career management is very important for you to think of your career. Appreciate the need for and show commitment to continued professional development. Take ownership for and manage our own career progression. So where do you think you want to be in the next 5 years or 10 years? It's not everything that is by luck, even though luck is also important. Demonstrate an insight into the transferable nature of research skills to other work environments and the range of career opportunities within and outside academia. Present one's skills, personal attributes, and experience through effective CVs, applications, and interviews. Time management is very important. So you are working and you are also studying. You have family commitment. At times you also have to attend social events. I mean, man is a social animal, so you cannot live in an island. So this is a time plan for PhD over 3-4 years. Starting from developing proposal to review the literature, to carry out field work, then you start writing your thesis. Then you may also want to attend a conference. So because of the problems that we encounter, it may then take much longer than 4 years to complete a PhD. But once we are focused, well, this one is just showing a map of Nigeria with a number of universities, about 311. So income, expenditure, sources of income to the University of Ibadan. Transcripts, when students have finished, they want a record of their transcript, exam fees, tuition fees, application forms. But of course, as you are getting money, you are also spending money. I think it's just this is just listing the sources of income from students over a period of about 6 years. So it fluctuates, especially when you have strikes. But of course, private universities, you don't have the issue of strikes. So with a lot of deficits. This was from Harvard to say they were renaming one school after somebody who gave them a $300 million gift. So it's very important. So they can use part of the money to give a scholarship to students who are in need. So this was where the VC of University of Ibadan was talking about how much money the university was spending on power supply. So discussion and conclusion. So this postgraduate college year or postgraduate school is an integral part of the university entire system. Then knowing full well that postgraduate training and research is central to improving the branding of a university. It is in our enlightened self-interest to strengthen the postgraduate school as the coordinating unit for postgraduate programs. So because it's more cheaper for you to train some of your junior lecturers here than to send them abroad, unless they have a scholarship. So you need to develop the postgraduate school. And the postgraduate school now is not the physical unit, but the various departments where the students are going to carry out their work. So to be relevant in this century, our universities must teach the next generation. I mean, you are a lecturer or professor, well, you are going to exit the system one time or the other, but you also need... No, I'm almost true. You teach the next generation, then you conduct research. We have mentioned that one. Then to commercialize some of the research results. It's always important to generate market-ready students, because in spite of all we have been saying, the best way you can measure whether university is doing well is your graduates, when they finish from here, are able to get employment. It's only when they are able to get employment or they create employment for themselves that you think we are relevant. Then there are always internal and external challenges, especially by Nigerian public universities. funding is a strike. But we thank God, at least from 2022, we've not had any major strike. So we continue to try. Then, of course, recruitment of a new faculty can be a problem. But I think University of Ibadan managed recently to employ a number of new academic staff. And most of the other federal universities also, they were able to employ people. But basically, the university operates on the basis of a committee system. A command and control system is, can never be heard of. So you have to decentralize, and everyone has to contribute to what is happening. Repositioning the postgraduate school at the institutional level is to be encouraged and promoted in all ramifications in order to have sustainable postgraduate education. So I thank the Dean and the local organizing committee for inviting me. Thank you.
Students, can we please rise and give a standing ovation to our guest lecturer, our distinguished guest lecturer for today, Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka, for that very insightful lecture. Thank you very much, sir. You may please have your seats. At this junction, I'd like to once again acknowledge the presence of the Ogun State Head of Service, Mr. Iskil Olariwaju Saka, MNI, and he didn't come here alone. He came here with the Permanent Secretary, Bureau of Service Matters, Office of the Head of Service, Mr. Oladipupo Ogunfowora. Let's put our hands together. He also came here with Engineer Olanike Ogunbono, Permanent Secretary, Local Government Service Commission, as well as Mr. Akintomiwa Oshibodu, Permanent Secretary, Teaching Service Commission, and Engineer Kehinde Akintomide, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. So at this junction, we'd like to invite the Head of Service to give his goodwill message because he has to leave right now. Let's put our hands together for the Ogun State Head of Service.
Good afternoon, all. Because of time, I'll jump the protocol and stand on the existing, already established protocol. But I'll take permission to salute the courage of our guest lecturer. I learned a lot from you, sir. May God continue to strengthen you. I pay homage to the KBAC. It gives me great pleasure to convey the warm goodwill and best wishes of the Ogun State government and the entire civil and public service of Ogun State to the management, staff, and students of Chrisland University on the occasion of this university public lecture and the maiden postgraduate school discourse. I commend the university for providing a platform that promotes intellectual engagement, scholarly discourse, and the exchange of ideas on issues that are critical to the advancement of higher education in Nigeria. The theme of today's lecture, Consolidating Postgraduate Education in Nigeria Universities, is both timely and significant, considering the pivotal role postgraduate education plays in research, innovation, and national development. I also congratulate the Vice Chancellor, Professor Oyedun Nishola Arulogun, and the entire university community for their commitment to academic excellence and human capital development. Such initiatives undoubtedly contribute to strengthening our educational institutions and preparing future leaders for the challenges and opportunities of a rapidly evolving world. I wish to specially acknowledge the guest lecturer, Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka, whose wealth of experience and distinguished contributions to academia continue to inspire generations of scholars across Nigeria and beyond. His remarkable accomplishment as a scholar, administrator, and advocate of educational excellence make him eminently qualified to lead this important discourse. I think he deserves our applause. I have no doubt that the insights he has shared today will enrich discussions on the future of postgraduate education in our country and provide valuable direction for scholars, administrators, and policymakers alike. In Ogun State, under the purposeful and visionary leadership of His Excellency Prince Dapo Abiodun CON, education and human capital development remain central pillars of government policy, guided by the administration's Ishaya mantra and the vision of building our future together. The government continues to invest strategically in education, capital development, research, and innovation as essential drivers of socio-economic transformation. Government also places a premium on productive partnerships with institutions of higher learning, recognizing their indispensable role in nurturing an intellectual capacity required for sustainable growth and development. We firmly believe that robust postgraduate education and research serves as catalysts for sustainable development, policy innovation, and evidence-based governance, which are essential for addressing contemporary challenges and advancing societal progress. The Ogun State government is committed to fostering an enabling environment where knowledge, research, and innovation can thrive for the benefit of society. This commitment is reflected in the administration's support for educational advancement, institutional development, and evidence-based decision-making across all sectors. As a government that appreciates the value of intellectual inquiry in shaping public policy and service delivery, we recognize the immense contribution of universities and research institutions to national development. It is therefore my expectation that the deliberations at this lecture will generate practical demonstration that will further strengthen postgraduate education, enhance research output, and contribute meaningfully to the attainment of sustainable development goals. On behalf of the Ogun State government and the entire civil and public service of Ogun State, I congratulate Chrisland University for this laudable initiative and wish all participants a successful and intellectually rewarding engagement. May the outcomes of this discourse continue to advance the frontier of knowledge and inspire innovative solutions for the development of our educational system and our nation. Thank you for your kind attention. God bless Ogun State. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Ìgbéga ìpínlẹ̀ Ògùn, àjọṣe gbogbo wa ni. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's put our hands together once again for the Ogun State Head of Service, Mr. Iskil Olarinwaju Saka, MNI. At this junction, you will agree with me that we need to appreciate our distinguished guest lecturer for this maiden postgraduate school discourse. Sir, we would request to have a photo session with you outside, just as you're walking out. Photographers are on standby to take a picture with you and the Vice Chancellor. As well as members of your team. Thank you very much once again for coming. Okay, so it's time for us to acknowledge our distinguished guest lecturer for today, Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka. I'd like to welcome the Deputy Vice Chancellor. I'll be bringing the microphone over there, sir. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Ebenezer Olatunde Farumbi, to make the presentation.
Distinguished audience, I'm very sure and convinced that we have all enjoyed the lecture. I recall when we were planning this postgraduate discourse, the maiden edition, and we were contemplating on who to invite to do this. Of course, several names came to mind, and his name also was mentioned, and we had to look at everything in totality, and we discovered that there was no other person qualified to give this lecture, the maiden lecture, other than Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka. And this choice was premised on a extensive network experience and what he is in totality. You remember when they were reading his citation, you can see that he's an academic par excellence, an administrator also par excellence, and somebody who has gone through virtually all the cadres in the university system, a teacher, a lecturer, elected a sub-dean, a postgraduate of the Faculty of Science, elected sub-dean, a postgraduate school. Later on, he became the postgraduate dean of the University of Ibadan. And after that, he went back to be head of department of geology, and later on, he became deputy vice chancellor and vice chancellor. You can see somebody who has gone through all this stand at a vantage position to be able to actually give this kind of a lecture. And I'm sure that we are all convinced that he has done justice to the title of the lecture that he has been given, and that we are not disappointed that he came and he was able to do this lecture, despite his tight schedule and multi engagements. He was in Abuja, came back, and traveled to Abeokuta timely this morning. We are grateful for this unique sacrifice and for coming to give this lecture. And we need to thank Professor Olayinka for giving the historical perspective of a postgraduate education in Nigeria as it emerged and started at the University College Ibadan. And this is a very, very important for everybody to know. Undoubtedly, University of Ibadan is the flagship of postgraduate education in the entire country, just like Oxford University and Cambridge University that he mentioned during his lecture, for the Great Britain. And I think this is very, very important. And he has also reminded us that we should not only focus on the teaching, and that he quoted the first principal of University College, Professor Melambi, in 1958, that said that the provision of teaching for our students and the prosecution of original research by our staff were our most important duties. And also the first vice chancellor of University of Ibadan, Kennedy K, 1960, that also emphasized the need to embark on a postgraduate education. It is therefore apposite for postgraduate teachers and students in a Christian university and the audience to know this and to understand. And we are grateful for this. Some take-homes, several take-homes, from the presentation, and I think some of them are important for the purpose of emphasis. Number one, that research culture must be ingrained in the fabric and the academic lifestyle of any university that works its taught. And Christian University, we need to take note of that. You are not just to teach, but we are also to do research. And he also mentioned that the postgraduate students happen to be the driver or the engines of a good research in any university that works its sort. And of course, the kind of supervision model that involves a single supervision, co-supervision, and the committee-based supervision must be taken. And we will try as much as possible to implement this as at when due, and we will be able to do this. So on behalf of the Chancellor, Chief Dr. Mrs. Winifred Awoshika, the Chairman of a Council, Professor Olukoju, and the entire management of a Christian University, the deans of the faculties, the Senate members, and the professors, and the postgraduate students and the undergraduate students that are here, we appreciate you profusely for coming around to give this lecture. It is therefore my singular honor to present two certificates to you on account of this delivery. One, award of appreciation presented this day to Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka in recognition of your presentation of the title lecture Consolidating Postgraduate Education in Nigerian Universities at the maiden Postgraduate School Discourse of a Christian University Abeokuta, held today, Thursday, 2nd of July, 2026. Congratulations. The second one is a certificate of appreciation to Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka in recognition of your presentation of the lecture titled Consolidating Postgraduate Education in Nigerian Universities at the Maiden Postgraduate School Discourse of Christian University Abeokuta, held today, Thursday, 2nd July, 2026. Many congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to quickly acknowledge our guests who came in while the program was on. And of course, I'd like to first of all start by appreciating our representatives of the Olowo of Owu Kingdom, Professor Maruf Adelekon Akingbogun of Owu Kingdom. Thank you very much, sir, for staying with us. Also, another professor representing another king, and that's representing the Alake of Egbaland, Professor Afolabi Shoyede Are Olumo of Egbaland. Let's put our hands together. Also here today we have Professor A.O. Mustafa, representing the Vice Chancellor of Crescent University. We have ASP Abdullahi Oyetunji, representing the DPO Kemta Police Station. We have Mr. Babatunde Joshua, Deputy State Commander, NDLEA Ogun State Command. Mr. Salisu Mohammed Adamu, NDLEA. We have CRC Andrew Hakideno, representing the Sector Commander, Federal Road Safety Corps. Also, we have Dr. Adebayo Siti. He's here with us. He's representing the Honorable Commissioner of Education, Science and Technology, Ogun State, Professor Bayomi Adelaja Aribagbu. Let's put our hands together for all these are very important guests and all of our guests that are joined virtually across our social media platforms on Zoom and on Facebook, as well as on YouTube. I'd like to invite the Registrar of Chrisland University. I'd like to, at this juncture, request that the representative of the Honorable State Commissioner of Education, Science and Technology, Ogun State, Mr. Adebayo Siti, please come up stage and take your position here. Who has left? Okay. Okay, so once again, I'd like to invite the Registrar for the vote of thanks.
Madam Vice Chancellor, it is my singular honor and privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this historic occasion, the maiden edition of the Postgraduate School Discourse. Today, we are part of history. We are making history together. The theme, Consolidating Postgraduate Education in Nigeria, speaks directly to our present realities. The conversation we have had today will serve as a blueprint for which we strengthen our supervision, improve funding, enhancing research quality, and positioning our university as a forefront of postgraduate training. Once again, we appreciate all of us collectively and individually. Specifically, I express our profound gratitude to our founder and chancellor for our visionary leadership, to the governing council for strategic direction, and the vice chancellor and management for enabling environment. We appreciate members of the Senate for oversight on academic functions, and to the committee that put this together, for all your efforts, we say thank you. We thank our royal fathers once again, the head of service, commissioner for education, And we also recognize the former immediate past Vice Chancellor for always participating in our programs. Especially, sir, to our guest speaker today, special gratitude to Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka, our great lecturer, for challenging us to act. Finally, to our beautiful media team for projecting this program far across this auditorium. This maiden edition has laid a solid intellectual foundation. The task before us now is to consolidate, to implement, to monitor, and to sustain the gain. May we all return with renewed commitment. Once again, thank you for your time, your wisdom, and goodwill. We commit all of us to the good hands of the Lord, that as we go, God bless our university, God bless the School of Postgraduate Studies. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, sir. Before we invite the university chaplain for the closing prayer, I'd like to take the following announcements. All principal officers, senates, as well as dignitaries that have the access card are please requested to proceed to the auditorium to have their cocktail with the Vice Chancellor. And if you do not have the access card and you're a member of Senate, there is somebody at the exit of this auditorium that would give you your access card. Students are requested to please sit down while the procession leaves the auditorium. The university chaplain for the closing prayer.
Please let us rise as we pray. We thank God for the gift of life. We thank God for good health. We thank God for soundness of mind that He has bestowed upon all of us, especially our guest lecturer of today. And we do not take all of this for granted. And so we commit everyone, the BOT, the council, the management, staff, students, parents, well-wishers, guests, friends of this institution, unto God's gracious hands and His mercies. As we depart from here, collectively, individually, may the Lord bless us and keep us. May the Lord cause His face to shine upon us. May God lift up the light of His countenance upon each and every one of us and grant us His peace. May He continue to bless us with good health. May He continue to bless us with sound mind. And we pray that our nation, Nigeria, the Lord God Almighty, will cause His peace to be known across our land. We pray for Chrisland University that it will continue to grow from strength to strength and from grace to grace. And the blessings of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit rest and abide and remain with each and every one of us now and always. Amen.
Thank you very much, the chaplain. We'll be taking the anthems now. We'll start with the Chrisland University anthem, followed by the Nigerian national anthem, the first stanza only, and then the procession in reverse order will move out of this auditorium. Media, please.
We will shine the light for all to see. Chrisland University for intellectual radiance, moral standards. shining star that God has built. Christian University, deploying resources to educate great hearts of nobility. Through innovation and research for meeting our society's needs, Christian University, we always shine the light.
The academic procession in reverse order. The Nigerian national anthem, the first stanza only.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribes and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland.
The academic procession in reverse order. Thank you very much. We've come to the end of the Maiden Postgraduate School Discourse. And our guest lecturer has been Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka, delivering the lecture on the topic Consolidating Postgraduate Education in Nigerian Universities. I'd like to say a very big thank you to everyone that attended physically and all of our virtual audience streamed across our various platforms on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. We say a very big thank you to all our students present. Thank you for joining, and thank you for staying till the end. We appreciate you, and we wish you journey mercies back to your different locations. My name is Dolapo Akintoye, and I say thank you once again, and see you next time.